What if you could reprogram your brain's autopilot? Imagine being able to effortlessly make the choices you've always wanted, hitting the gym instead of the snooze button, reaching for an apple instead of a cookie, or focusing on your most important task instead of scrolling social media. Well, the good news is you can, and it all starts with understanding the science of habits. Welcome to CEO's Library, the 1% Bookshelf. I'm your host, and today we're diving into Charles Duhigg's groundbreaking book, The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business. This isn't just another self-help book. It's a journey into the intricate workings of our minds and a roadmap for personal transformation. Let's start with a story that illustrates the incredible power of habits. In the early 2000s, a woman named Lisa Allen walked into a laboratory at the National Institutes of Health for a study. Lisa had struggled with obesity, smoking, and drinking for most of her life. She was in debt, couldn't hold down a job, and her husband had recently left her. But as researchers looked at her brain scans and medical tests, they were astonished. In just 4 years, Lisa had quit smoking, lost 60 pounds, and run a marathon. She had a stable career and was even planning a trip to hike the mountains of Machu Picchu. What caused this dramatic turnaround? Lisa had changed one habit. She had quit smoking. And that single change had set off a chain reaction, rippling through her entire life. This is what Duhigg calls a keystone habit, a change that unlocks all other changes in our lives. But how do habits work, and more importantly, how can we change them? That's what we are going to explore today. We'll delve into the habit loop, learn how to identify our own habits, and discover strategies for rewiring our brain's autopilot. So, whether you're looking to boost your productivity, improve your health, or break a bad habit, stay tuned. You're about to gain the tools to take control of your life, one habit at a time. Now, let's dive into the core of Duhigg's research, the habit loop. This simple yet powerful concept is the key to understanding why we do what we do and how we can change it. The habit loop consists of 3 elements: the cue, the routine, and the reward. Think of the cue as the trigger that sets off your behavior. It could be a time of day, a certain place, an emotional state, the presence of specific people, or an immediately preceding action. For instance, you might reach for a cigarette every time you finish a meal, or check your phone whenever you feel a moment of boredom. The routine is the behavior itself. It's what we typically think of as the habit. This could be smoking that cigarette, scrolling through social media, or biting your nails. Finally, there's the reward. This is the payoff that your brain associates with the behavior. It's why you keep doing what you're doing. The reward might be the nicotine hit from a cigarette, the dopamine rush from seeing new posts on social media, or the temporary relief from anxiety that nail biting provides. Understanding this loop is crucial because it explains why habits are so hard to break. Our brains are constantly looking for ways to save effort, and habits are its way of putting certain behaviors on autopilot. Once a habit is formed, your brain stops fully participating in decision-making. It stops working so hard or diverts focus to other tasks. So, unless you deliberately fight a habit, unless you find new routines, the pattern will unfold automatically. Let's look at a real-world example of how understanding the habit loop can lead to massive success. In the early 2000s, Procter & Gamble was struggling to market a new product called Febreze. It was a spray that neutralized bad odors, and P&G was convinced it would be a hit. But despite heavy advertising, sales were dismal. The marketing team, led by Drake Stimson, was puzzled. They had created commercials showing people spraying Febreze on smelly rooms and clothes. The cue was supposed to be a bad smell, and the reward was a fresh-smelling home. But it wasn't working. Then they had a breakthrough. They realized that people become desensitized to bad smells in their own homes. The cue they had chosen, the bad smell, wasn't even noticeable to the very people they were targeting. So they changed tack. Instead of marketing Febreze as a solution to a problem, they positioned it as the final touch in a cleaning routine. The new advertisements showed women spraying Febreze as the last step of making a bed or tidying a room. The cue became the end of a cleaning task, and the reward was a pleasant scent that served as a signal of accomplishment. This new approach tapped into an existing habit loop. People already had routines around cleaning, and Febreze simply inserted itself into that loop. The result? Febreze sales skyrocketed, eventually becoming a billion-dollar brand. This story illustrates a crucial point. To change habits, we often don't need to change the cue or the reward. We just need to insert a new routine that satisfies the same craving. This insight is at the heart of many successful behavior change strategies, from addiction treatment to corporate turnarounds. Now that we understand the habit loop, let's talk about how to identify our own habits. This is a crucial step, because many of our habits operate below the level of our conscious awareness. We're often on autopilot, unaware of the cues triggering our behaviors or the rewards we're really seeking. So, I want to challenge you to become a habit detective in your own life. For the next week, pick a behavior you want to change. It could be snacking in the afternoon, checking your phone first thing in the morning, or procrastinating on important tasks. Whatever it is, start tracking it. Every time you engage in this behavior, write down answers to these questions. Where are you? What time is it? What's your emotional state? Who else is around? What action preceded the urge? These questions will help you identify the cue for your habit. Remember, almost all habitual cues fit into one of these 5 categories. Next, pay close attention to the reward. What craving is your habit really satisfying? This isn't always obvious. For instance, you might think you're snacking in the afternoon because you're hungry, but it could really be about needing a break from work or wanting social interaction. To figure out the real reward, try changing up your routine while keeping the cue the same. If you usually snack in the afternoon, try taking a short walk instead, or chatting with a colleague. Then, after each new routine, jot down the first 3 things that come to mind. They can be emotions, random thoughts, or just words. 15 minutes later, ask yourself, do you still feel the urge to snack? By experimenting like this, you can uncover the true reward your habit is providing. This self-awareness is the first step to changing your behavior. Let's look at how powerful this kind of habit analysis can be in the business world. Target, the retail giant, has become incredibly adept at identifying and predicting customer habits. They employ data scientists to analyze shopping patterns and predict major life events that might change a person's buying habits. One fascinating example involves their pregnancy prediction model. Target's analysts noticed that women in their second trimester started buying larger quantities of unscented lotion. A few weeks later, they often began purchasing supplements like calcium, magnesium, and zinc. In the first 20 weeks, many pregnant women loaded up on hand sanitizers and washcloths. By analyzing these and other seemingly unrelated purchases, Target could predict with uncanny accuracy not just whether a woman was pregnant, but how far along she was. They then used this information to send carefully timed coupons for baby items. This strategy was incredibly effective, but it also raised ethical questions. When Target started sending baby-related coupons to a teenage girl, her father complained to the store manager. It turned out that Target knew about the girl's pregnancy before her own family did. This story illustrates both the power of habit analysis and the responsibility that comes with it. By understanding habits, we gain tremendous insight into human behavior. But we also need to consider the implications of how we use that knowledge. Now that we've talked about identifying habits, let's dive into the most crucial part: how to change them. Remember, the golden rule of habit change is this: keep the cue, keep the reward, change the routine. This principle is at the heart of many successful behavior change strategies. Let's look at how it's applied in one of the most well-known habit-changing organizations, Alcoholics Anonymous. AA's success isn't due to medical treatment or psychiatric expertise. Instead, it's because the program provides a method for attacking the habits that surround alcohol use. The cravings for alcohol don't go away, but the routine of drinking is replaced with routines of attending meetings and calling sponsors. Here's how it works in practice. When an alcoholic feels the urge to drink, the cue, instead of going to a bar, the old routine, they attend an AA meeting, the new routine. The reward, relief from anxiety or stress, is still achieved, but through a healthier behavior. This same principle can be applied to any habit you want to change. Let's say you want to stop snacking while watching TV in the evening. The cue might be sitting down on the couch after dinner. The reward might be relaxation or a break from the day's stress. Instead of reaching for chips, you could try a new routine that provides the same reward. Maybe knitting or doing a crossword puzzle, or even just stretching. The key is to experiment with different routines until you find one that provides a similar reward to your old habit. This process of experimentation is crucial. You're essentially retraining your brain, teaching it that there are other ways to get the same reward. But knowing what to do isn't always enough. That's where implementation intentions come in. These are specific plans that link situational cues with responses that are effective in attaining goals or desired outcomes. In simpler terms, it's an if-then plan. For example, if it's 7 p.m. and I'm sitting on the couch, then I will do a crossword puzzle instead of snacking. By creating these specific plans, you're much more likely to follow through on your intentions. Remember, change isn't always easy or quick. It requires patience and persistence. You might slip up, and that's okay. The key is to get back on track as soon as possible. Each time you successfully complete your new routine, you're strengthening the new neural pathways in your brain, making the new habit more automatic. Let's look at a real-world example of successful habit change. In 1987, Paul O'Neill took over as CEO of Alcoa, the aluminum manufacturing giant. Instead of focusing on profits or expansion, O'Neill announced that his primary focus would be on worker safety. This seemed like an odd choice to many, but O'Neill understood the power of keystone habits. By focusing on safety, he set off a chain reaction that transformed the entire company. To improve safety, communication systems had to be overhauled. This led to better information sharing across the company, which in turn led to more efficient operations and higher quality products. The result? By the time O'Neill retired in 2000, Alcoa's annual net income was 5 times larger than when he arrived, and its market capitalization had risen by $27 billion, all because he focused on changing one key habit. As we wrap up, let's recap the key strategies for habit change. First, identify the components of your habit loop: the cue, routine, and reward. Second, experiment with different routines that might deliver the same reward. Third, make a plan. Create implementation intentions that spell out exactly what you'll do when you encounter your habit cue. And finally, be patient and persistent. Remember, you're not just trying to break an old habit, you're trying to create a new one, and that takes time. Now, I want to leave you with a call to action. Pick one habit you want to work on this week. It doesn't have to be a major change. Start small. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, or taking a 5-minute walk during your lunch break. Whatever it is, apply the strategies we've discussed today. Identify your cue, experiment with new routines, and make a specific plan. Remember, as William James said, all our life, so far as it has definite form, is but a mass of habits. By understanding and changing our habits, we have the power to reshape our lives. It's not always easy, but it's always possible. Thank you for joining me on CEO's Library, the 1% Bookshelf. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with a friend who might benefit. And don't forget, you can find the full transcript and accompanying visualizations at ceoslibrary.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing.